Hey Shassos, Jay from Pantheon Studios. This is our official first video for the YouTube channel. We're doing a little bit of stuff on Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in any of the things that we're doing, I'll leave links in the places that internet stuff happens. I wanted to make this video because I had a tournament yesterday, and through some of the conversations that I've been having, there's a lot of recurring questions that come up, and a lot of the questions that I will get are to do with list building, what I'm running, and generally how it runs. And I sort of thought that I would extrapolate that into basically how and why I pick the things that I do, and how I intend to make the list that I'm running actually work. Now, for anybody that doesn't know me, hi, my name's Jay, and I am a highly ranked 40k competitive player, and also a career DM. So if you've come to this channel for any of the D&D stuff, there'll be other stuff available for you there. If you're here for the 40k stuff, then there'll be stuff there. I more tend to focus on the factions that I play, which is Tau, and we'll be playing Leagues of Catan when they come out. But if you're interested in any of the other stuff, feel free to check out the other videos. It might be something that you really, really like. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Hey all, Jay from the future here, and I just realized that I put when we get into this next section where I'm going through the list, my little camera box window is sitting over a kind of annoying part of the screen where you would want to be reading. I am so sorry. I can't go through and re-record all of that stuff because there was so much information. The information is still good, and you'll be able to see generally what I'm talking about. I do apologize. It'll be fixed for future videos. Hopefully you guys still enjoy it. Like I said, the information's still fantastic. So yeah, stick around. Don't go anywhere. Here with my list in Battlescribe. Before I get into it, a little bit of an overview of the actual tournament. I ended up going 2-1. The last game, we literally got 30 minutes to play it out because the store was going to close, and we're sending feedback to the venue because that is a horrible experience for anybody. And because I was playing Kao Yun, all of my scoring happens at the end of the game, so it's not exactly like I could do well at the start, and then when we're talking out, 3.5 turns, that, my opponent was willing to concede that I might be able to do really well, I would have had to shoot him in the face and tell him otherwise. Now, played into Demons on that one, against a very highly ranked Australian player. I hate the Zinch save. I hate the Zinch save so much. The unmodifiable 3-up on shooting meant that I was actually quite literally throwing Kroot Carnivores into his face just because he would only have a 6-up save against a lot of their damage, and they actually did quite well, which I loved. Anyway, that notwithstanding, I was also the only Tau player at the tournament, and there were 4 of us, to get any more than 1 win. And I didn't get to observe any of the games that the other guys were having. I know that a lot of them were running Riptide lists. I tried to have a walk around when I could. My first game against the Knights player was over super quickly because I got first turn and blew up. I think he said I killed 1,100 points of models in the first turn. Granted, he rolled pretty badly with some of his stuff. He did his Ion Shields thing for the 4-up invulnerable save, and it just went so bad for him. I felt really bad because he was genuinely a really nice guy. And it was even worse, and a little bit of psychological warfare, because he named the Knights, because he was English-Scottish by background, he had named his Knights after his cousins and his grandfathers. And I was halfway through the game, I'm like, oh boy, I'm killing your family right now. And, we had a laugh, but, big ups to him. That's some psychological warfare. So anyway, let's get into the actual list itself. So I am running a battalion. I'm running Tau Sept. Now, the reason for that is predominantly access to Longstrike. He is such major value, and he's a part of the game plan that I have, which is that when I go to a tournament, I want to have a list that does generally everything well. Does not specialize in anything. it is able to adapt to whoever I'm versing. And I think that that is one of the things that makes my list generally do well. Most RTTs, I will be 3-0 or 2-1. Generally, I'm 2-1 if I go up against some of the highest ranked players in Australia. Other than that, it's usually a bit of a pub stomp. And at the 2-day events, generally I'll be within the top 10 at 60, 70 man events. And I think that that has to do with me not worrying particularly about the matchup that I'm going into. I am able to just look at my opponent, try and assess what they want to do, and use the tools that I've got to try and solve whatever the particular problem is. The second part about Tau Sept is the hit or wound reroll is such major value, especially at the end of the game where you probably don't have marker lights. You're hitting on 4s, exploding on 6s, 5s, and 4s, because most of the time I'm taking Cao Yun. It's super big value. And I think with the Leagues of Atan release, I think that Farside Enclaves are actually going to lose a lot of value because their reroll is tied to the wound roll. And Leagues of Atan, you cannot reroll wounds. So that, I think, is going to hurt them. Not in a way that they're out of the meta and they're destroyed and everybody needs to, start a bonfire and sacrifice to whichever Chaos God you pick. But I do think it diminishes some of the value that they can get. So anyway, let's get into it. No Force Org slot because I've got 2 units of Kroot Carnivores minimum. I can have 2 units of Kroot Hounds outside Force Org. I don't need to. I'm not taking a lot of fast attack stuff. It's how I put it in Battlescribe, so I don't feel like you have to emulate this exactly. Kroot Hounds are almost every single game my absolute MVPs. 12-inch move, 7-inch pre-game move, reroll, advances and charges, 3 attacks per model. They are just massive value that you know are going to lose. But one of the things that I did against the Knights players specifically, and I do this whether I go first and kill 1,000 points or not, I will move them to the point where measuring the guy's base and asking him how much the movement is. Let's say his big boy was going to move 12 inches. So I move them up to the 9 or 9.5 inch mark because he literally, even though he could walk over the models, you must be able to fully get to the other side of the models or you cannot make the move. Titanic rules. So I would put it there and I would take his melee big boy down to an 8 or 7 inch move because obviously he then has to stay an inch out of engagement range. And yes, he will charge me. Yes, he will be able to consolidate afterwards, but that's just a 3-inch consolidate. So really I have turned 12 inches of movement and potentially 6 inches of pile and consolidate into 11 inches total, which is less than his starting movement value. Very important to do this sort of stuff against armies that will want to run at you, just to slow them down across the turns, whittle away their other stuff, and then go from there. Kroot Hounds are amazing. All right, going into my HQ slots. Now, I have done some different things before, and I'll actually pop out of this view so that I can show you. The Cold Start Commander I've been playing around with a little bit. At this tournament just gone, I had the... where are they? I had the Tau-specific vectored maneuvering thrusters. I didn't see value out of this once. Now, this one comes down to your local meta, the type of players you're going against. But because this was a pretty stacked tournament as far as high-ranked New South Wales players, everybody knew that they didn't want to charge my Cold Star. And when they know that they don't want to charge a Cold Star, they will just throw Psychic at it, they will throw Shooting at it, and they will just find other ways to skin that cat, or just charge a unit there and not charge the Cold Star. So I didn't get a ton of value out of this. It doesn't mean that you won't. It's just for how I play my commanders, generally they're ranged output platforms. I didn't get any value. I've had massive value out of the Solid Image Projection Unit and the Bagel Hunters plate. So they are, if you're interested in that, first time they fail a saving throw, obviously it doesn't help you against mortal wound output because you're not failing a save. Damage becomes 0, which is really, really nice, especially at the end of the game. If they've only got a couple of big guns that they're relying on, you just go, okay, I'm going to roll to see if I save because you've got a 4-up invulnerable save. And if I fail, I can CP reroll 1 and the other one becomes 0. Or if it's only 1, 0. But one thing I do want to play around with, because of the Demons matchup, and the guy that I was versing wasn't even using the Warp Locust stuff, where they can come in within like 6 inches. But it was still a case that he could minus my leadership and come in. So Kroot and Kroot Hounds were not the screening units that I wanted them to be. They were still coming in super close. But, you know, if they have somebody coming in at 6 inches and you got bloodletters running at your face, that's pretty bad. I'm having a look at the advanced EM scrambler, and I'm going to put some testing in on that because enemy units can't be set up as reinforcements anywhere within 12 inches. So yeah, cool. You've got a warp locus for 6 inches. Nope. Just straight up. Nope. Anywhere this guy stands. And then you can use that. And 2 of my opponents who use a lot of deep strike stuff actually commented on how well I screened them. Even the demons guy, even though the Kroot weren't really doing anything, I had half of a board that he could not be on and no good options to just easily remove my stuff without giving something up. And I really do think if that game was able to play out in the normal time frame, I mean, maybe I'll lose anyway, but it was a tight scoreline when the game ended at turn 2. And we were just talking out, rolling out things that mattered. If we actually had time to make decisions and think about what we're doing and consider our options and everything else, I really think I would have won that game. And that was without this. If I can stop him screening as well as I do, 12 inches around that commander, just saying, nope, you are not coming in here. And remember, it says cannot be set up within 12 inches of the bearer. So they are going to be at a 12-inch charge, which is the absolute maximum that you can do it. Although, no, I think they have to be within 12 inches to declare a charge. Yep, he's right. Must be within 12 to declare a charge. So if you cannot come in within 12, you cannot declare a charge. Even stuff with a 3d6 discard the lowest or 3d6 charge, if you're not within 12, you can't declare in the first place. I'll double check this. Yeah, actually, no, they have to be within 12 inches. So you are making it an impossible charge. So they can come down, but they're going to stand there and they're going to get shot in the face, which means that most players won't do it. The second part of it, command phase, unit isn't affected by aura abilities of other units from your opponent's army. It's not a ton of aura units that we can deny, but it's something I'll keep track of. If there is models that are really, really requiring the reroll ones, or, you know, if there's something which is, you know, models around this unit have X thing, then maybe it'll be nice to shut it down. But mostly I'm looking at the reinforcements within 12. All right, I won't beat that particular horse to death. Let's go back to this this thing. So the things that I've taken: Warlord trait, precision of the hunter, rerolling hits and wounds is just massive. Like I said, I use them as output platforms. There's the stuff that's built into him, the EM scrambler that I'm going to be trying out. I'm also going to be trying the positional relay because I'm using a 5-man unit of crisis and what I've adjusted to a 4-man unit of crisis. I am going to be seeing, because there are opportunities where I'm playing players where if I put that unit in deep strike, and I used to do this with stealth suits before everything got giga nerfed and I had to get rid of them, that bringing them down turn 1 is actually a really good way to punish somebody that doesn't deploy as if they're going second, or they've got stuff sticking out because they have to. And it's a pretty big output unit of crisis. If you can bring them down within, because you can also string out the models so that, you know, you've got drones within range that it says. So you can use so battle round being one higher than the current number. When doing so, it must be set up within 6 inches of the bearer. Notice that it doesn't say wholly within. It just says within. This is all through 40k, that there is a discernible difference between wholly within and within. Actually, one of the things that caused one of the most horrible games that I've ever played in my life, and at the end of it, had a dude try and step in front of my car as I was trying to drive away from him. We can go into that story at a different time if you want. But, so it means you can string out this unit with drones attached to it, and they are, you know, like, they can't come in within 9 inches of an enemy unit. It's still the same deep strike rules. But you can potentially string out into bits of cover and whatever else, or get close enough for these 18-inch guns, even if you're not particularly there. And one of the things that I'm thinking about, a little bit of tech for it, we have Exemplar of the Cao Yun, which is on Shadow Sun. We'll get to it later, spoiler alert. And you can have your Cold Star deployed. When you're first putting down, you have the Cold Star in the normal position. You have them nice and protected, look out surd, or behind cover, or whatever you need to do. And then with the redeploy, if you're going first, you redeploy him right to the front. And so, yeah, it's... And looking at the wording, he is able to move before he does it. The positional relay, once per battle round, when you set up a friendly Sept strategic reserves unit, the bearer can use the war gear item. So you're in the strat reserves phase, which is after the movement phase. Now, if any of this is incorrect, and I am actually going to double check this before I make the video go live, so you may have a little butt in of future J here. Yeah, again, he's right. The wording is actually the same in the codex. And I even double checked the stealth suits with their homing beacon action. It specifies the command phase. On the commander's positional relay, it says when you set up reinforcements. So yeah, Cold Star can move and then just set them up. It's not an action. He can move, he can shoot, he can do all of that good business and get a unit of crisis down turn 1. I can't believe I missed this for like this whole time. Really excited by this development. But if I'm correct, then he moves 14 inches. Not just 14 inches, Jay. He can advance. This isn't an action for it to happen. It just happens when you're setting up reserves. And then when you're setting up strat reserves, you go, okay, cool, it's 1 round sooner. Bang, my unit is coming down. Which is just, you know, the commander's losing a gun, which means that he's getting less value out of his Warlord trait. But you can see I've got him outfitted with a high output burst cannon, a plasma rifle, and the thermoneutronic projector. He's not using this stuff until he's within 18 and 12 anyway. Oh, plasma's great, but it's one shot. We can have him as this, because I use him as a supporting character, and then when I've got exploding numbers from Cao Yun, that's when he starts to go hyper aggressive and maybe uses his high altitude maneuvers. So yeah, it's something that I would really love to try, and I think that I could get some massive value out of. Now, if this isn't particularly your playstyle, you don't use a ton of crisis suits, you know, whatever, then that's fine. But I'm going to try this, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. I'll give you a breakdown afterwards. All right, so that is the Cold Star Commander, and I'm including an Ethereal. So moving on, that was a terrible transition. I apologize. I'm including an Ethereal because I still think they have massive value. A nerf to 80 points was not enough to stop them from having value. With all the things that I've bought in this list, I'm starting with 1 CP. Spending a CP, obviously, I could start on 2 and not have the Ethereal. But the sheer amount of CP that I use tactically to skin whatever cat I need is massive. And him giving you that, him giving you the 5-up Feel No Pain. I had a crisis unit live 2 turns with manticores, mortars, and direct fire. There was like 36 shots or something that came through from a vehicle of like strength 8, AP 3, damage 3, and the dude killed 1 crisis suit each turn. 1 with stim injectors, 1 with a 5-up Feel No Pain from the Ethereal. It was gross because they have to get through your, if you're in cover and you've got iridium suits and, you know, all that sort of stuff, because we got the infantry keyword in this new book, they're on a 1-up armor save in cover. So the mortars were bouncing non-stop. And even when they did go through, 4 or 5-up Feel No Pain. And then, you know, the higher AP shooting, you've got shield generators on maybe 1 or 2 of the crisis suits. You've got the shield drones with them. As soon as, yes, you may roll badly. But if you don't, and I've had crisis suits live for ages, like it just, not to beat a dead horse, but the Ethereal's amazing. He can also give, any of the core units use the leadership. This comes into play with demons because they minus your leadership and then deep strike you because of that. It's another layer of protection from that. And then he also has the ability to give them perform an action and still shoot. So if it's towards the end of the game, you need output from your crisis suits, but you've taken aerospace targeting relays, they can stand there, shoot somebody in the face with a bunch of exploding 4s, 5s, 6s, whatever you're up to, and still perform that action and mean that your opponent goes, oh crap, I need to get down there and stop him from doing that, or he's just going to get 1 billion points in this game. So yeah, so running Sense of Stone and Wisdom of the Guides, if you hadn't worked that out already. All right, so Longstrike, the next one. I told you how much I like him through Bolden's Victory, auto-wounding 6s on my crisis suits. And actually, I'll explain this one out as well. A lot of the time in my games, when my crisis suits are shooting at something which is equal to or greater toughness to the strength of their weapons. So, for example, the unit of my crisis suits that will always start on the board is the 5-man double plasma missile pod unit. And generally speaking, they are popping over a wall, not exposing themselves, shooting, firing, and fading over. They've only got 6 inches to do it, so you can't do it, super far out. But generally speaking, with Titanic units, if it's knights or bigger stuff like the big Chaos Demons or whatever else, it is possible for me to get angles, shoot something, and then pop back over. So I'm doing that each turn, but it means that I can't utilize the Tau Sept strategy to give them +1 to wound because nothing else can fire first. Strike and fade unit must be the first unit to fire in that turn. Because of that, I need something which helps me cut through on the wound phase. Wounding on 4s and 5s sucks. It really, really sucks. So if you've got auto wounding 6s, you're hedging your bets a little bit because you're probably going to hit very well with markers and full rerolls from Shadow Sun. But it means that you are failing less in the wound phase than you otherwise might be. So that one for me is a great take. He's also got the normal hammerhead stuff, gunship ace, all that sort of thing. The targeting ray, reroll one of his own hit rolls. Remember, you can also use the Tau Sept reroll. So let's say I fire my railgun and it hits on the first thing. I then have a Tau Sept reroll and a hammerhead reroll for the gun drones, the accelerated burst cannons. Or I can hold my Tau Sept reroll for the wound roll. So if I miss with the railgun, I will pick up the dice and say hammerhead platform reroll, bang. And then if I fail the wound roll, which does happen, you do roll once, Tau Sept reroll, bang. So my hammerheads, generally speaking, if they fail because I rolled 1s, 2s, and 3s more than I would like. And then the biggest thing here is he has the ability to give a unit the ability to count as having a marker light whenever it fires, which is just so massive. So massive. Does he have it on here? Battlesuit. Yep. So here, each time, this is a Tau Sept core or Tau Sept hammerhead. So giving it to another hammerhead, hitting on 3s, potentially with a marker light. Counting as a marker light is already a +1, so you won't be able to stack any other +1s. But having another hammerhead hit on 3s is amazing. Turn 3, 4, 5, if you've had to kill off your marker drones because your crisis suits took mortal wounds or whatever else, and they don't have any more marker lights on the field, all of a sudden, you guys are just hitting on 3s. And that massive output gets better. So he pays for himself all the time. You do have to protect him because people are going to target him, but that's where Exemplar of the Cow Yun comes in. So, 3 units of Kroot Carnivores. Can't really tell you anything that you don't already know about these guys. 7-inch pregame move, 4-up save when they're standing in cover because they gain an additional armor saving throw whenever they're gaining cover. Now, bear in mind, in dense cover, they are still getting this. They just go to 5s. Light cover, because you're getting a +1, they get an additional +1 and go to 4s. So if somebody tries to say, no, dense cover, you're not in light cover, you don't get a bonus. It doesn't say light cover. It says when you are receiving the benefits of cover, gain an additional 1. Okay, cool. So, elites, let's get into the meat of where all of my firepower and generally what I play around is. Now, to throw it out there, this is my list, and I should have put this as a caveat at the start. This is my list. This is something that I'm running with, that I've tested, that I've had a lot of success on. This does not mean that I'm saying that this is the only way to play Tau. There has been a lot of value and a lot of even tournament wins or seconds on a heavy Fire Warrior Devilfish list. And in a team's environment, there is actually a list that I will be running at the New South Wales Team Championship, which I have lovingly called the Sister Fister. If you guys like, I'll review that one and I'll show you exactly what I'm going into there. That one's a little bit different because in a team's environment, you can generally avoid matchups that are bad for you, so you can really tech into specific stuff to deal with people. So, this one is 5 crisis suits, 2 marker, 2 shield. I generally don't find that I need more than that. Generally, if you need more shield gens than that, you are already dead or you have played them badly. All right, so one has early warning override, which is Overwatch on 5s, and the bearer gets to hit on 5s, and the unit gets to use Overwatch for free. Now, a couple of caveats on this that people often get confused with. It's only free for the turn in which the unit does it. Next turn, if let's say you had to use it on a hammerhead or whatever else, it is not free for them. It is still the same price. It is whenever this unit fires Overwatch, you can reduce the cost by 1, down to 0. However, it does not also give you an additional use of that stratagem. Only one can use this. So if there's multiple units getting charged, pick the best one to Overwatch. You do not get 2 uses of it just because of this war gear. That would be busted and horrible, and I wish we had it. Please, Games Workshop, please make that a thing. The big 5-man's also got stim injectors because 4-up, feel no pain. And notice it says until the end of the turn. Proc this in the psychic phase. It's there till the end of the fight phase. Now, it's only the bearer that has it. So if the bearer dies, that's it gone. But in that Astra Militarum game, actually one of the best Astra Militarum lists that I have played, and it sort of goes to show the caliber of people that were at this particular RTT. I think I mitigated like 15 wounds just on a 4-up feel no pain. Now, I know that's ridiculous, and it happened against demons as well, but 4-ups are 4-ups. Any Harlequin players can absolutely attest to how swingy and ridiculous and sometimes bullshit 4-ups can be. I've also got target locks on some of the suits, so no cover saves against their attacks. And they are, why is this showing a cyclic ion blaster? It should not be. That is probably a holdover because my battle scribe hasn't been syncing between my phone and my thing. So who is currently sitting on a cyclic that shouldn't? That is you. Let's get that out of there. It should be a missile pod. Okay, now, to go back to it, let's save that. To go back to it, the reason why I've gone into double plasma missile, yes, it's expensive, but what I've found is that I can protect this unit very, very well, and a flat 30 inches is some of the longest shooting that we have in our army. This unit that could pop over a wall, shoot you at 30 inches, and then pop back over, you're never really worried about range. Long ways, a board is 60 inches. That's half the board. And generally, your crisis will never be sitting on the back of it, so you have coverage of almost, in most decent ruin setups, you are covering like 3/4 of the board, which is really, really great. And then later on in the game, you can really clear off objectives that your opponent may think are safe or that they're having to commit a unit to be able to protect. But yeah, so that is why I've teched into that, and it's high strength, high AP, high damage shooting, which is really, really great. So 10 shots of plasma, 10 shots of missile pods. It's fantastic. Not too much more to say about those guys. Second unit crisis suits. These will generally always be my deep strikers. Reason being is that they're outfitted generally similarly, but they're going for burst cannon, cyclic, plasma, and that's one of each. Now, the reason for that is generally I'm coming down pretty close, and I'm also generally bringing them down in Kao Yun. So turn 3. Exploding 6s. I've brought them up to a 4-man unit for this one. I ran as a 3-man, which means you get full rerolls for 2 CP, which is, nice. I'm going to try out the extra output, but we'll see how it goes. I've run 5-man units of these, and I know that they slap. So I'm not running the flamers that I was in the previous tournament because flamers can't explode. They're nice, but they're only strength 4. These are guaranteed 6 shots. And actually, my flamers, I rolled more ones than I would like to say. These are guaranteed 6 shots at strength 5, which is relevant against like Marines and all that sort of stuff. No AP, but neither do the flamers. And these can explode. So that's why I'm opting for the burst cannons over cyclics and plasmas. You can give them AP if you need to. Don't forget the, I think it's not coordinated fire arcs. That's the Tau specific one. Basically, 2 units must shoot at the same unit, but they all get -1 AP to all of their shots, which can be really, really nice if that AP is relevant. Again, these guys have early warning override, 1 with a shield gen, and then the rest with target locks. Ignoring light cover in an AOC world is so massive. So massive. Because they can reduce your AP down to 0. That's cool. But they are getting additional armor saves from cover. So like Sisters, for example, 4 or 3s going to 3s and 2s is not nice. They can reduce their AP all they want, but if they're still saving on 4s and 3s, then, I'm fine with that. Mathematically speaking, I'm fine with that. They're single wound models. Okay, going into our heavy support, we have another Hammerhead. Nothing special to say about this guy. He offers anti-tank along with Longstrike. Sun Sharks. Now, okay. Oh, I have seen some hot takes on the Facebook group, Reddit, different Discords, where there are more than a couple of people saying that Sun Sharks are terrible. And, you know, likewise, there are a bunch of people talking about, oh, yeah, but my Sun Sharks just fly over and then they die. Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. It's on you to make sure that you get the value, and I'll run through exactly how I do that. Now, first and foremost, 165 points to fly over, bomb somebody in the face, potentially fly off the board and come in turn 3, or stay there, and then after you've bombed them, marker-light them, and then shoot them in the face with some genuinely good shooting. That is worth 165 points. This game is about trading, and I have noticed a trend where there are a lot of people, and I felt this when I first started playing the army and learning the game and everything else, that get into this mindset that you must shoot all their stuff and then they don't touch you, and I don't trade anything back. And I think that is a mindset that stops people from winning games, because this game is about trading. This game is about, what can I take with me for the points that I'm throwing at you? What can I put onto this objective that's either going to stay there and hold the objective at the end of it, or am I happy with the trade? Which is why I love my Kroot and my Kroot Hounds. They die every game. I've never had a game where Kroot have lived past it. Not a single one. And that's okay. They're doing their job. That is exactly what they're there for. So let's talk about Sun Sharks and why they work and why they're so good. Maybe this should be a topic for another video. This one will be a little bit longer, but whatever. You know what? It's our first video. Let's treat ourselves. All right, so 165 points, set up with a Marker-Light, 2 missile pods, 2 Seeker missiles, and also have the interceptor drones. Now, while the interceptor drones are docked within them, ignore their weapon skill and ballistic skill. They are treated as the platform that they are on. So they will still shoot on 4s. Don't let anybody tell you any different. It is the same with drones that are docked onto Hammerheads or Sky Rays or Devilfish or whatever else. They are a 12 wound model, T6, strength 6. Strength doesn't matter. T6 might be nice if they were bigger, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that will cut through them. And just a 4-up save. They are not defensible, and they are not designed to be. Exemplar of the Cao Yun is your best dead friend, because depending on what I'm putting forward, I can hide all of my Hammerheads so that I don't have to redeploy them, put the aircraft right up on the line so my opponent is looking at where I'm pointing my wing, because you have to make a 90-degree turn or up to 90-degree turn. So I will put the bulk of models in that arc between his wing and between his nose. I will have all of his models somewhere there, and just go, okay, yep, so putting this guy, intent is that I can make my turn and I can fly over that unit, that unit, that unit, that unit, whatever. You are instantly inside your opponent's head, because he's looking at some of the models that he does not want you to bomb. And demons, these guys got massive value. Sisters, they get massive value. Eldari despise our bombers. Even looking at some of the bigger vehicles, I had against the Knights player, my Sun Sharks did, because you rolled 6 flat dice against vehicles and monsters. They did, between the two of them, about, I think it was 10 mortal wounds, which is on the higher side, but that was against his little fellas, and then with their shooting, they just picked up 2 of his war dogs. Things that were supposed to go out and get objectives and do all the things that he needs them to do. I just went, again, nope. So, so they fly over. It's 20 to 50, not 20 to 60 as some other aircraft are, so keep that in mind. You cannot be all the way at the back of the board and expect to get all the way over the other side of the opposing ruin. But we put them on the line, and then if we find out we go second, generally speaking, because aircraft can't benefit from obscuring, if they have any shooting that can get to me. And so demons didn't have it. The Knights will definitely have it. Eldari generally will have it. Sisters tend to not have the ability to get to them. But, just ask your opponent what their greatest distance of shooting is, measure out their movement, all that sort of good stuff. If they can get to the Sun Sharks, I'll pull them off the board. I don't care that I'm not bombing them turn 1. Them coming in at the start of turn 2 or the start of turn 3 with exploding. And because aircraft, when they come in from strat reserves, do not have to be within 6 inches of the edge of the board. They deep strike like anybody else. Now, bear in mind, that doesn't get you to go, oh, I fly over you and then land here and so I bomb you. That's not a thing. But you can come in within 9 and then you're within the 12-inch range for exploding shots. And then let's look at their profile. So when you do that, you can't Marker Light because Marker Light has to happen at the end of the movement phase or the movement step within the movement phase. And then the reinforcement step begins. And it's the same for your suits coming down. We cannot use Marker Lights coming in from Deep Strike, which is actually why on my second unit of Crisis, you'll see that I didn't put any markers on them. So they come in. And all of a sudden, if they're bombing, it's a dice for every model in the unit. So Sisters players, Eldari players that have these big 10-man units, I love it. Demonettes, I did 7 mortal wounds and picked up a whole heap of them. He was not a happy man. They've got an innate -1 to be hit. So maximum of 10d6s also for the unit. So bigger than a unit of 10, you don't really care about. And then you've got, they've got 4 ion rifles. 4. So you are making 12 strength 8, AP 2, damage 2 shots, if you overcharge, which you should. Unmodified hit rolls of 1, Barrow suffers a mortal wound. They are Tau Sept. So you can Tau Sept reroll one of the hits that's a 1. Yeah, you'll take mortals. So what? 12 strength 8 AP2 damage 2 shots after you've just flown over and potentially done a maximum of 10 mortal wounds to whatever you're on. And these shots can go wherever they want. And then they have 2 missile pods. So that's 4 more shots of strength 7 -2 damage 2. And then you can fire a seeker missile each turn for 2 turns, which is just fantastic. And don't forget about the Marker Light strat. If your Crisis suits have Marker Lighted something that the aircraft can't see, you can spend the CP to fire the Seeker missile at him with the Marker Light. It will consume the Marker Light, so if you want to shoot with other stuff, also make sure you've got multiple. But you can, out of line of sight, shoot the Seeker missile. Now, bear in mind, this does get affected by the out of line of sight shooting stuff, because it's a stratagem, but it is still anti-Loz shooting. And I've got 2 of those. And I haven't really had a game where I've used Kao Yun to redeploy them back to the back of the field because I know they can't get to me, but they could if they were at the front, or just take them off the board in strat reserve. And then the other side of it, like I was talking about with Cold Star, is that if I deploy aggressively like that, cool, my planes are staying there. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to bang. I got first turn. Cold Star moves up, does his move in the movement phase, and then a big old brick of Crisis come down with full rerolls to hit, and we will have the CP because we get one at the start of the turn, and then the Ethereal gets us another one on a 2-up, so we have 3 CP for them to burn. They come down with full rerolls, or the Cold Star will be in range, so you just go the reroll ones to hit. Hitting on 4s with support from the aircraft in your other unit, maybe on 3s because you put Marker Lights on their targets. Hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, you don't even need to pay the 3 CP for full rerolls to hit. Just judge it in the moment. And you can see how my list starts stacking these different things over and over again, and why I can be very powerful in my turns. And have games like a Gonghammer where I knew I was going to lose my game against Custodes at the end of my turn 1 movement phase. But that game, with half of my army dead at the end of turn 2, it was 82-84. Still brought it back because I still have these reliable things that I can fall back on and use to score. So, yeah. And then at the bottom, we have Shadow Sun. Now, bear in mind, our commanders have a 9-inch reroll ones because Tau Sept specifically says that the 3-inch range of auras and whatever else gets extended. It also says invocations. So stuff like your Feel No Pain, you can give that out at a greater distance. Or use an ability in a command phase that specifies a range. Longstrike can give out auto-wounding 6s at 9 inches or 12 inches instead of 6. I should really know this off the top of my head. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Within 9. He gives it out at 12. 12 inches for auto-wounding 6s. All of this stuff because of Tau Sept. Now, Shadow Sun has a drone, the command link, at an additional 3 to a maximum of 12. All of her auras are at 12 inches. It's amazing. So full rerolls to hit, 12 inches. Reroll 1s if you didn't get the Chapter Master rerolls. 12 inches. Her Chapter Master rerolls, she can give it to a character or a core unit. So she can give it to herself. You got a Cold Star, which is great output, rerolling all his own stuff. Then Shadow Sun rerolls all her own stuff because she is equipped with two 24-inch fusion blasters. That if you're within half range, a D6 plus 2, that is potentially massive damage. And I've had those explode super regularly on Kao Yun. And if she's rerolling all of her own hits, hitting on 2s, you can actually fish for it. Yeah, you might get punished with some 1s, but who cares? The times that you explode and hit, you are going to do some monstrous damage. And yeah, 5-up invulnerable save. Good saving profile to start with. She's on 3. She's not like hyper durable, but she's really good. Fletcher Launcher, which is kind of garbage, but it's funny. Light Missile Pod and High Energy Fusion Blaster. She's a 24-inch output buffing unit that you keep safe, and then eventually you can move her out because by the end of the game, hopefully the enemy just doesn't have a lot of good, dedicated stuff to deal with these characters in the way that they would want to. And likely still have 2 Bricks of Crisis that are out there being monsters. So that rounds out all of my stuff. Obviously, hers is exemplar of the Kao Yun, is a Warlord trait you must take with her. I start with 1 CP. It is, 1998 points? Let me just check back here. 1998 points, 1 CP. And so, looking at that, this is a list that I've been toggling and playing with for a little bit. At one point, I was running 4 Hammerheads before it was cool. And that was really, really cool. Obviously, one of them was Longstrike and then 3 basic bitches. And yeah, so it's a little bit of a different play style. I do take aerospace targeting relays against low model count armies, Custodes, Knights, bigger demon lists, more elite things. Like I can probably take them against Grey Knights, especially if they're very Dread Knight heavy. I can take them. I don't take them against things like Thousand Suns because you need all of your output and they're going to trade well. They're going to teleport on you. And if you start lighting up an aerospace targeting relay, they're going to go, okay, cool, I'm going to teleport on you and flame you to death and mortal wound you to death and all that sort of stuff. And it's kind of just exposing your units before you're ready. But if you're really confident that you can do it, obviously, end of the game, especially if you go turn 2, Cold Star redeploy is amazing. He just pops over to 1 and starts doing it. And it specifies in ATR that it ends, you complete it, Fire Warriors, end of the turn. Everybody else, start of your next command phase or end of the battle, whichever happens first. So turn 5, if you went second, he just pops over and he automatically gets 1. Crisis, you can move quite well. Don't forget that the Ethereal gives him the ability to shoot and still perform an action. And so there's a lot of options there, but generally I will do it if I'm confident that I'm going to be killing a lot of the stuff that is going to threaten me doing that later in the game. And it's obviously nice to get a 15. Decisive action very often is a take for me because it's just a worse version of Stranglehold. Yes, we can't get a 15 on it, but a 12 is still fantastic and 4 points per turn just to hold more objectives than your opponent. Oh, it's like you got to hold 3 and hold more than your opponent, which is super doable. Even on a 5 objective map, holding more is holding 3. And if you've got to hold 3 on a 6 objective map, if you've been playing properly, you have a strat to just take the drones off your hammerheads. And in this list, I've only got them as gun drones. They're going to sit at the back. Our opponent can commit stuff back to them, but cool. At the end of my turn, they're sitting on there. I control the objective. They're all the way on the back of the field. And I am getting super aggressive pushing up the board with Kao Yun. So that's how I play. That's my list. The third secondary, I probably should go through that. The third secondary, generally speaking, I'll look for a kill secondary or I'll look for something in the categories I haven't chosen that is just doable. That's just achievable. So yeah. All right, so Chassos, that is my list. That is what I ran this weekend just gone. Was the only Tau player to have more than 1 win, and I feel like I kind of got robbed of my 3rd win because I got to play for 15 minutes and then it was done. So a little bit disappointing, but pretty solid with my list, and I really do enjoy it. I'm looking forward to some Leagues for 10 because I've been playing this army for onto a year now, or just less than. And I'm ready just for something fresh and new and to one of the things that got me into this game was the cognitive engagement that comes along with it. And so I do need to be learning new stuff all the time and having to remember new stuff and then roll that into, tactical play and all that sort of thing. It's what keeps me in this hobby. So, happy for people to throw the meta chaser thing at me. But at the end of the day, we don't know if Leagues of Catan are going to be meta. They look very, very strong. But if there's been one thing that we've seen with every army that's come out, yes, they come out strong and, Tyranids have been horrifying, but probably get adjusted and people will start, the meta has moved at different points because these strong lists require answers. So we also don't know what lists are going to come out and be really fantastic into all of these really strong armies. And I'm actually really excited to see the meta shift and change. So, happy to wear the meta chaser tag, but really just doing it for me. And this will actually, because I've been putting my partner through PhD, this will be the first army that I will own brand new and put together myself and paint myself. I've had to play a bit of Ghetto Hammer. And so this is really exciting for me as well. So, if you guys enjoyed this sort of content, you want me to go through some of the other lists, you want me to review some of the lists from the, best in faction guys and the highest ranked Tau players in the world and kind of break down generally what it is that they'll be going through, or you want to know anything else about Tau. If you, I'd love to have enough sort of input from people within the community that they want to, you send questions and I just do like an FAQ video. But I have been recording some stuff down at my LGS, just Tau tips, actually using the models and showing you how I'm moving and doing all that sort of stuff. I'll try and keep up with my tournament coverage. Next weekend is CruitCon, which is I believe it's at a major now. Might be, I don't know if it's bigger than that, but I think it's like at least 80 people. Week after that, I've got Moab, and then I've got the Uprising Adelaide coming, which is it is the biggest tournament in Australia, which will be January next year. But I'll be covering all of that and everything in my Instagram. Feel free to go and like the Facebook page, Pantheon Studios. It's where I'm going to be posting a lot of my stuff and sharing or whatever. So it's kind of a hub for all of that sort of thing. I'll put links to it in the description of the video. So and we're a small creator. So likes, comments, sharing it to people that you think might need to see it is obviously massive for us. So get down below and hit that, or don't. I'm not your dad. All right, Chessos, I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.